2023, and it's our regular meeting. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to introduce our presentation of the Smart Schools Award. Can you just briefly introduce yourself?
I'm trying to figure out the right spot to put this podium, so. Okay. So good evening. Thanks for having Chris and myself. My name is John Henry Lane. I'm the Managed IT Leader over at the Mohawk Regional Information Center. Chris is West Canada's Educational Technology Leader. Together, back in June, we presented to the board on the Smart Schools Funding Act that was passed back in 2015, I believe. So back then, that was our official Smart Schools plan that we submitted to the board. We then we had to post it on the district website for 30 days for any public comments, which there hasn't been any. And then one of the requirements to be able to submit that plan is to have what this is considered as the community forum for the Smart Schools plan. Obviously, there were some district leadership changes since June, so that's why we're meeting now. But basically, Smart Schools was a funding mechanism that was passed as part of the budget back in 2015. Schools submit their plan to SED. It goes through a review process, and then hopefully it's approved, and the districts can make the purchases. The purchases were from 4 categories. They were networking, like infrastructure, classroom technology, so interactive boards, Chromebooks, laptops, those types of things. Physical security, so security cameras, the servers that go with that equipment, and then some other categories that didn't necessarily pertain to our area, but were more targeted at school districts downstate, with portable pre-K classrooms and other options. So again, back towards the end of the school year, we had reached out for feedback from through the technology committee. The focus that West Canada had wanted to narrow in on was, let's get to it, network infrastructure, interactive displays, and security in PA. That was a balance between the need to replace some of our aging projectors in the district that cost, there's a significant cost there, along with wanting to plan for the eventual upgrade of the actual network itself, and then also incorporate some security and PA system needs that were made known in the district. Most districts did not focus on just buying Chromebooks because of how it works. The district has to front that money for the purchase once approved, and then it's a reimbursement process. And just due to the life cycle and age of typical Chromebooks, laptops, desktops, you'd want to try to invest in something that's a larger ticket item that you might not necessarily be able to address during just your typical hardware aid purchases throughout the year. So we worked with Mr. Shepperton and Kelly to create the narrative that we posted on the website. Like I said, we posted that, and then once approved, we can submit that through SED. We'll work with Mr. Wheelock to do that through the portal, and then we kind of wait. The process to get the final approval from SED can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months. But once the approval is received, then we work with the business office to make those purchases. It does not have to be done all at the same time. So with funding concerns and needing to put that money up front for those purchases, our focus would initially be on the interactive displays and the security and PA system pieces, with the thought that the network will need to be upgraded and improved upon, but it doesn't have to be now. And once approved, you don't have to spend it all at once. You can wait 2 years from now when some of that networking equipment is coming off of warranty or at the end of its life cycle, and then you can make that purchase and still receive the reimbursement. It was just easier and probably smoother to do it as one collective plan versus having to submit multiple plans and wait for state ed. So I know there's been some changes on the Board of Ed as well since that meeting, but are there any questions overall about how the development came to be, what the process looks like with SED, anything like that? No questions? Well, okay, so, next steps is we'll work with the district leadership to get that submitted through SED's portal, and then we'll wait, obviously, we'll update the board as once we hear from SED, and we'll go from there.
For the security, what were the changes or upgrades you're gonna have in place?
Chris, do you remember?
Yeah, so it was gonna be digital PA systems throughout the district that go into the classrooms that have a digital display sign that will give you the time. You know, maybe if there's a lockdown or fire drill, that's gonna pop up on a display inside the classrooms. Or
So-
which falls into safety.
Yeah, so a lot of schools have either addressed needing to update their PA notification system through like a capital project, or through other funding mechanisms like smart schools. Basically, the systems tie into the network and the security software, as well as like the PA notification systems, the fire alarm, so when there is a lockdown, basically the digital displays, you know, digital clocks like the one in the back, would say, you know, go flash red and say lockdown or lockout or some other message like that.
But nothing with the camera system?
Not to my knowledge, I don't believe. Some of those other, if there's, some districts, if they need to update their cameras, there's other funding mechanisms that the district office can take advantage of as far as replacing some outdated cameras that are fully refunded or reimbursed by New York State on an annual basis. So that's something that, you know, we can certainly talk about and work with the business office on. But that's what that focus is.
A few every year. We add a few and upgrade a few
Or
every
just
year.
like internally, like if there's something going on at night, does something alert the head custodian or you, or if there's movement?
There's nothing that alerts us, but we can go back and watch the video,
Okay.
but there's nothing that triggers any kind of an alert.
Just something I think we should look into.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you
Thank
very much
you.
for your time.
Thank you.
We have another presentation from Synthesis. Will you be using the screen?
Just one slide?
Yep.
Excuse me.
I'll just stay over here.
We distributed an outline of the discussion for tonight. Does anybody need a paper copy of that? I do. So my intention is to be brief and give you a lot of information, and then if there's time for questions. So the scope of the proposed capital project, everybody's very familiar, it was a generous if it would be leveraged for a large, what we call like a stadium project, the athletic fields, with turf, lights and bleachers. Again, thanks to this donation and the ability to leverage state aid with that. So the other pieces of that may not be obvious are in the last items here. Stormwater improvements required by field work. So synthetic turf is very different from natural turf, and it has to be treated as far as DEC and stormwater is concerned, it has to be treated as pavement because the water comes through it so quickly. It's like runoff off of a parking lot. So we have to capture that and treat that as well. So similar to like any other development, like when we did the parking lots here a few years ago. And then also, to do site work and receive aid for site work, we have to do some building work. It's very minor building work. And preliminary conversations with the state, we're able to do the building work that supports this, basically bring power out to the lights. Maybe enough work to do the site work and generate state aid for the site work, okay? So that's being priced out. There's some other candidate projects that Kelly is regularly discussing with us, and we're just trying to make sure we know what that last item is, that minor building work. But otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward project and what we're setting out to accomplish here. The thing we really wanted to focus on tonight is procurement methods. So if people are familiar with public work projects, there's only a few ways you can go about things, and that's as soon as you hit your controller's threshold of 35,000, labor and material projects have to fall into one of these categories. And those categories are bidding, which we typically do on a reconstruction project. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at the screen. It's on the paper in front of us. The traditional bidding, so a public work bid. Also cooperative purchasing, that's similar to cooperative purchasing through BOCES. You've got somebody else that's bidding and organizing purchasing on your behalf, okay? New York State contract. New York State contract is more typically material purchases. You know, think of like buying paper. You know, you don't have to bid paper because you can get it off a state contract. We don't typically see labor and material projects like capital improvement projects. There are some minor components we could do off a state contract, but not typically, not something of this magnitude. And then a piggyback contract, which is really a lot of work for everybody involved. That's when you kind of mirror a contract that's already been completed and use that to say, hey, this work's already been bid. Let's take advantage of the bid that's already been done and expedite using that contract. But there's a lot of auditing and other things that go along with that make it kind of cumbersome for most capital project work. So from the scope of work and the options that we have for procurement, in discussion with construction manager with Chase Construction Services, we recommend to do a co-op. And there's a few reasons why we did that, okay? Typically, you look to co-ops because somebody else has already done the bidding of this work on behalf of anybody that's involved in a co-op, okay? So these are different from BOCES. These are national co-ops that we can take advantage of. And these are industry-leading products and companies that have this work bid through these co-ops so that we can purchase it. So first off, Field Turf. Field Turf is an industry leader in synthetic turf. About half the fields around the country are field turf. New York State K-12, all the projects that we've done have been field turf. We don't have any benefit from that. It's just their product has always been an industry leader. Their warranty is a 12-year warranty, which is really important because it's very, that almost gets us to, if you're familiar, to get building aid, you can't replace anything that's less than 15 years old. So that 12-year warranty gets us pretty close to that. And so there are other products now that have introduced a 12-year warranty, but they were first. Their technology enabled them to be the first that could offer the 12-year warranty. But most importantly, with synthetic turf, it's playability and safety. So Field Turf has demonstrated, based upon their design, it's highly engineered. It's not the AstroTurf of days of old. It's a much taller synthetic blade that's filled with a mixture of sand and rubber. You know, people are familiar with watching the NFL and seeing the black spray from the rubber pellets. So that it's an engineered mix of sand and rubber, and they're able to demonstrate a reduction in injury based on that product. So for all these reasons, we like Field Turf. Could we build this back and bid it to Field Turf? We could, and we have done it that way. But in that method, then we have to have additional time in our schedule, which we're going to get to afford bidding in our schedule.
I have a question.
Sure.
That 15-year turnover, could you explain that?
So this is true of any product that the district installs. If you're looking to get building aid from the state ed, whether it's a roof, synthetic turf field, it must be 15 years old, because basically when you're paying aid, it's financed over 15 years. So it's basically, you can't replace anything that's not paid for, is basically what it comes down to. Okay.
So will it last 15 years?
So typically, yes, our experience is 15 years. And most districts have a replacement plan for 15 years, you know, and whether you lease the field or you just plan it to be part of a capital project. You know, when I say lease the field, you have income from leasing the field, that you create an account for replacement, or just plan it as part of a capital project 15 years out. And costs are much different when you're doing replacement, because you're only replacing really the carpet, you know, replacing the whole infrastructure and drainage, you're just replacing that plastic carpet and the infant, right? The other thing we like about field turf is we have a reliable contractor performance, very predictable, and very reliable, and so we know that they're going to perform for you. So not only do they have an industry-leading product, they also have the crews that can put it in and stand behind it. So
Is that local or?
So in New York State, it's Shenango Contracting, they're based out of Binghamton, or not exactly out of Binghamton, but the Binghamton area. And then also Musco Lighting. I said field turf does about half the fields. Musco Lighting, at least in New York State, probably does 80 to 85% of college and high school field lighting. They are industry leaders also. From the standpoint of LED lights, like you can buy a lot of LED lights, theirs are engineered to, you know, low energy usage, but also they put the lights where they need to be. It's highly controlled lights in terms of focusing the energy on the playing surface and the track. So, and they also have controls that basically you can turn them on and off by from a phone app. But more importantly, they also see your lights from their control center. And I had a client recently tell me that Musco called them up and said, "We have a light out, we're coming by to fix it." So, wouldn't that be nice if everything in the building worked that way, Kelly? But that's the kind of, you know, industry-leading technology that they have. The big issue with Musco Lighting, if you're not familiar, adjacent property has legal habitat, so we have a DEC permit to install these lights. Musco is experts in cutoff, so it's not like you see an auto dealership from 10 miles away and the valley's lit up. You're gonna see the light fixture and no lights going off of the property. Which we heard the other day in our meeting, that sometimes is an issue. We have a playground right next to the field. We wanna let a little bit of light get onto the playground because we expect people are gonna be using it. So we're talking to them about extending their light coverage to at least get onto that playground and use when they use. So that's why really everybody selects field turf and Musco. Why do we recommend a co-op for your particular project? There's several reasons, right? So in our current marketplace, it's challenging. If you're familiar with the last project, I think Superintendent Shepherdson came to the board several times, really talked through like, hey, we've got to make some choices here in terms of priorities. We're seeing cost escalation, so even with the best estimating and the best planning, we still had to prepare to, you know, on bid day to say like, what are the tough choices we can make today so we can have a successful bid and move forward on bid day. So those kind of conversations happen a lot. So by bringing in co-op purchasing, we're able to negotiate based upon pre-established pricing. Okay, so that eliminates guesswork out of when we bid it, you know, getting ready for construction season next year. We're able to have those conversations and decisions made months and months sooner, so that we're, you know, the project able to proceed on track. Also, the compressed schedule and access to contractor input. So, with the approval and looking to construct next year, we need to be able to really be able to hit the ground running, and there's questions of availability. When we bid, do we have contract availability? Do we have availability to get these folks that I just described on the project? Talking to them now, while we're still preparing to go to state ed, talking to them now locks them in, and they know this project exists, they know they're ready to contract on this project, and they're, dedicating workforce for next year so that this happens. So that's why we recommended a co-op, and we think it is an incredible amount of benefit to you here. I'm typically a bidded guy, so, every project they say bid, and that's because we're usually doing reconstruction projects, and there's a lot of variables in reconstruction projects. There's a lot of strategies on how to get into a project, get the work done, get out of the project, and different contractors could add different value to the project for the district. But in this case, where we have very specific scope of work, this made a lot of sense, and the Chase and Synthesis both recommend the district to go this path. One other aspect that I just want to touch on too is in the current capital project, when there was a lot of decisions to be made, in a reconstruction project, there's typically scope throughout, potentially throughout your buildings and throughout your sites. Here, we're dealing with three rather large ticket items, larger scope items, and there's really nothing to borrow or eliminate, right? We want to make sure we're able to do the field, we want to make sure we can do the lights, we want to make sure we can do the bleachers. So being able to have these things priced and contracted sooner and know that we're on track for a successful project makes a lot of sense, right? We're not waiting to bid day and then saying, do we have to give up on the bleachers? We can't give up on the lights of the field, right? Do we have to read the bleachers that would go away at that point, I guess. So, we don't want to get there. We want to be able to lock these things in now so we're able to run and leave it with a very successful project. Does anybody have any questions?
Is there any kind of warranty on the lighting?
Yes, so the lighting actually is a 25-year warranty. And during that period of time, they will do exactly what I just described. They will tell you when something's wrong, when something's outside, failed, and they'll come out and fix it. So it's 25 years.
I have one other question. You mentioned Schnago Contracting is going to do the turf. Do they do that themselves or do they subcontract?
So what they do is they do the turf. Okay, so they'll come in, they'll lay out the carpet, and basically, the concept right now, I'm not presenting their plan on their behalf, but sometime in the future we can share the design. But it's basically a multicolor field like this. They lay out 5-yard wide rolls across the field, stitch it together, cut in the stripes, cut in the logo or letters, and they do all that work. They subcontract inside their co-op. Their co-op covers anything that's required to be done so that they can do that work. And so they subcontract all the stone subbase and the drainage material.
Okay.
But they're the, excuse me, the contract will actually be signed with Field Turf, the manufacturer. And then Schnago Contracting will be the project manager and the turf install.
You must have some references for these people, right?
Absolutely, sure. I can share references.
So it's the, underneath the carpet, you've got the rubber and the sand,
So,
and then what's underneath that?
so the rubber and sand is actually in the carpet.
In the carpet.
Yes, and there's, maintenance protocols for, kind of fluffing it up and remixing it, so, because it's an engineered mix, it has to be agitated and reset down. But below that is drainage stone, and actually a fine grading stone, because this is a very, particular grading, it's kind of micro grading, and, to establish a play surface. So, the stone base that goes below that, then there's actually like, drainage that gets laid over the stone, and then the carpet goes down.
Because I remember back when we first started talking about this, and we had asked, make sure it's one thing, not the other. Are there two different for the base?
There's,
You know what I'm saying, like two different ways of doing it? I can't remember exactly.
there's like a shock mat that goes under some
Okay,
fields. This would not, and this is based on their research, that the product that we're specifying, which based on the height of the blade and the fill that's in that, they don't recommend a shock mat. So that, and I don't know the exact science, we could have them come in and talk about it, but basically, when you get a certain depth of fill, the shock mat starts to deteriorate from the
Constant.
improvements you get, you know, the reduction in injury you get. And, you know, when you have less fill, the shock mat helps, but at a certain point, the shock mat retracts.
Okay,
So we're targeting
the higher, so you
the
don't do
least
that.
injury.
Okay.
So
How do you get materials across the track?
excellent question.
Very careful.
So in addition to speaking quite a bit in this room the other day, we also went out on the track the other day and talked quite a bit about it. So, as one of our goals in terms of controlling costs is to remove the additional existing material within the field. And that's gonna be trucked out beyond the track to create basically access for vehicles to get in and out and so on. So you want to cross the track in the shortest distance and in a perpendicular manner. You don't want anybody turning on the rubber. You don't want anybody coming across the V zones. So because we can't access it along the sprint lanes, we have to access it here. So we're filling this area here and creating a temporary kind of platform for trucks to come, turn, and then cross the track. And there's a multi-layer system built up over the track. That includes steel plates and stone dust and a lot of protection and load spreading for our vehicles so the track isn't damaged.
Other questions?
One piece, since we may have community on or access in this meeting too, is what was brought up in the meeting was the bleachers, and that there's a long lead time for the bleachers. So there's a possibility that we could have the field in, the lights up, and playable, and not have bleachers in place ready to go. So it's gonna be difficult to have the community look at a field that's all ready to go and say, well, we can't. So we're looking into measures of how we can certainly protect that area till the bleachers can go in, allow people to still stand as much as possible where they have been to watch the games, just knowing that there might be that barrier that I think they'll try to keep as high as it needs to be, but as low as it can be, so that it doesn't ruin line sight if we can't get it in before a first game or, you know, something of that nature. But just something to prepare the community that could be a lag time of that getting in just because of the long lead time, which I think speaks to what Jim is talking about, is trying to get this to state at, get approval and get this process rolling so that we can hopefully have a field ready to go for fall sports to start in third week of August.
And right now, everything we hear from Field Turf and Musco Lighting, there shouldn't be anything that, you know, prevent us from being fully ready for the fall. Of course, this past summer, you know, if it wasn't pouring out, it was 95 degrees, so we had a lot of challenges, you know, to be fair to contractors, there were a lot of challenges this past year. And a lot of our jobs, that, you know, in terms of site work was very challenging. So barring that, the field and the lights should be all set to go come fall. Bleachers are gonna be right down the wire and really close. So what Superintendent was just describing is if you can imagine the building's over here, existing sidewalk here, and you walk onto the back of the bleachers. Well, until these are in place, the site will be all prepped and ready, right? The bleachers come in parts, and people will assemble them. But this work of foundations and prep for the bleachers will be done, so we won't want people in that space. So there'll be a barricade here, like a temporary fence here, so people can still be on the walkway, they just won't be able to get down in the hill. And this is going to be close, you know, we're optimistic, but we have to, you know, also share that information, just, we're really close in terms of days.
Are there steps in design where you enter the field? There's a gate that you enter the field, we've got 2 or 3 of them. Are there going to be steps down to those? I think there was talk about that.
There are not, the bleachers will be accessed from the back, the handicap accessible seating will be in the back, and these are raised bleachers, so they'll be a few feet above grade, and there'll be standing room at the fence, but there isn't any stairs planned at the lower end of the bleachers.
But as far as access, like from the end of the building directly to the field, not bypassing the bleachers, is there a pathway, is that what you're asking?
Well, we've got 3 entranceways on this field, on this side of the field, to get onto the field. And I think Mr. Shepherdson spoke at one time that there were gonna be steps down to those
So
for
there's been
people to
talk
go
about,
across, if they wanna go across.
so there's been talk, this slope is very challenging from a standpoint of, if we go down to the field, we'd like to make it accessible. Right, so, because of this existing slope here, we would have to extend walkways a great deal to make this accessible. So there's talk, based on available funds, potentially we could get down to the field from the end near the scoreboard. But right now, we're really focusing on the turf, the lights, and the bleachers and getting in.
What's the length of the bleachers? 20 to 20 or 30 to 30?
It goes 30 to 30, it's 465 seats. It's a 7-row bleacher, 465.
How long does it take to install the bleachers once everything is?
So similar to the others, they have their specialty crew, and it's very quick. We did a bleacher just slightly smaller than that this summer, and it was just over a week. And it's really a kit of parts, and they do this every day. They really move quickly.
Well, we talked about that, and that can be, I mean, certainly that's an avenue that we could look into, but since Section 3 runs football in this section, so kind of at the mercy of them, but certainly Todd could see what kind of effort could be made to perhaps get a few of the first few games away to buy us a little time.
Will the board at all be involved in choosing the design of the turf? And we're about to get a new mascot, so you might want to incorporate that,
So we've had that conversation, so we're excited to hear. I hear we're down to 25 now. So we're excited to hear. We just shared, actually with Todd DAD just the other day, Field Turf was able to meet with us and bring a preliminary plan. And the purpose of that was really to just see what it looks like to have all our required game lines on it. You know, soccer, 8-person football, 11-person football, and everything, you know, on one field, and what does that look like? And there's a nice placeholder there for a logo. So logos come with a cost, so that's part of the conversation, but, you know, we, absolutely, right now, this time, I don't know what your timeline is for selection of this stuff.
as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So if we can back up 6 weeks from, you know, probably about the beginning of May, if we've got graphics and, you know, there's funds available, then we can get a mascot on the field.
Okay.
I think it would be important for the board to see the field, you know, see the graphics, the graphics, you know, including the graphics of the mascot. Important for you to see that before that goes down.
Where's the closest field that they've done this kind of work on?
I believe Field Turf just did Dolgeville.
Oh, they're doing Dalzos right now?
So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, their games are.
Yeah.
Did Chris say they were working on Dolgeville?
Yep. Yep. The done Waterville, New Hartford. No, not Sequoia. The Waterville and New Hartford, I know, had field turf, and Waterville just had theirs replaced last year, and New Hartford, I think, is slated to be replaced this year or next.
So they didn't do turf, but Little Falls did Musco lighting. So. I'm very envious of your future turf, but glad you could speak to them about their lighting, and very happy with that.
Any questions?
None of the work will block off the playground for the elementary, correct?
So there's a lot of logistics of this project, because we've got a number of things. Like we've got the septic system over here that we can't travel across, so we have to come in from this end. So similar to the last project, there'll be a lot of temporary fencing, and the talk is we'll actually have stop signs and, you know, traffic guidance, so we know when students are coming out to the playgrounds, that everybody be safe. a lot of this work, which is a little bit different from last time, a lot of this work is once the trucks are in, we're actually moving a lot of this material from here across the track and unloading it along the ravine. So, I don't know if people are familiar, and this is probably too much, but, the old ravine next to the rail bed, just the proportions and the configuration of that made for a great drainage basin when we did the track a few years ago. So we're going to continue when we have to handle that increased stormwater from changing this from natural turf to synthetic turf, excuse me. We're going to increase the capacity of that storm storage there. So we'll be taking a lot of this material here and building up the end walls to increase the size of that basin. Which, as you know, I mean, it's almost always empty. You know, it has a capacity for a 100-year storm, but it's really, in the day-to-day, it's not a pond on this whole site. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're set up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. I apologize, in the beginning, I should have introduced Mr. Wheelock, who is our interim superintendent, in case people watching weren't familiar from the last meeting. Thank you. And then we have a couple more introductions. Miss Emily Lumen is with us. She's our new director of special programs. She's come to introduce herself tonight.
Would you like me up there?
Please, no, you-
I leave them up there. I'd like to thank you for all for welcoming me in this year already. It's my started my second week here. I've come from Utica City School Districts, right out of the classroom of a 15-1 teacher where I've taught for 9 years. I finished my education degree in August, so this is new to me, and I'm working very well with my secretary and with all the staff here, and they've been very helpful. I'm looking forward to pushing us forward and accommodating the special education programs here with a little bit of ease and making it easier for the teachers and the students to become one. So I thank you, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Okay, also going to introduce Mr. Todd Hoban, who is our new athletic coordinator, and I believe he's going to give us an update.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to get into this position. I also want to thank publicly Ed Doherty, who has been a phenomenal resource for me. The timing of when this all happened, as you can imagine, there's a huge learning curve for me to get going. And I'm running my own team, and I have a coworker that I'm working with that's out on maternity leave, so I have a new teacher trainer. So there's a lot going on, but every now and then I can reach out to Ed, and he's been wonderful. Mr. Wheelock, Mr. Broadbent, everyone in administration, the coaches, they've been phenomenal. So I just want to make that publicly known that they've really accepted me in this role, and that's been a plus. So the fall season, you know, we're actually starting to get into the playoff season time. Football, we got a couple more left. The boys JV soccer, I'm trying to get them one more for this Friday, and then they will be finished up. Waiting to see how the girls soccer will play out with the playoffs. And we got our mods going on right now. We have boys mods at Morrisville right now. So cross country's got some elite, athletes doing in there. Lewis Clark and Isabel Lyon are doing a great job. So it's been fun to watch them and really get integrated with the other sports since I've been so narrow with what I've been doing since I've been here. Banners in the gym, we're getting them updated. Obviously, we've got some new lights going on in there. That was kids were wondering, well, who cleaned the gym? But it was trying to get them to understand it was brand new lights in there. Working on the scoreboards and things and that to try to get that ready to go for the winter. We currently have about 70 signups for winter sports. It's early. I've been doing it more electronically. I just feel like that's a little more private for the kids. I don't like seeing it posted on there anyways, and it's never accurate. So we're doing it electronically, it'll take them a little while to get caught up. It's mainly the young kids that gotta get used to doing it that way, and for them to understand how important it is for me to get that information, so that's been going well. Basketball, all the basketball schedules are all done. We have, the boys have a scrimmage with Fort Plain that they will be going to. The girls have Holland Patton coming here. This is all taking place the day before Thanksgiving, okay? And the boys are going to be, I got them into the Downtown Classic, which is taking place at the Nexus Center. They're gonna play Dodgeville on the 30th at 7 p.m. This will be in lieu of our December 11th game that we have here. Okay, so it'll be basically our home game, but it'll be played down there. I think it's a great opportunity, and Dodgeville was all in for that one. One thing that's come up, I think I saw it passed on there that Mr. Maxwell brought up the whole spring trip thing, which I got the information yesterday, so my text from him said that you've been addressed with it, and I don't even know where it is, what's going on there,
Yeah,
so.
we don't have to discuss it tonight, but
Okay.
he sent it to me just because my son is on the team.
Okay,
And asked if we would present it, talk about it.
Okay. I just didn't wanna
But, yeah,
redo things that have already been done, so I just need
so
to
this
get an
is
idea of
something
where
new,
that.
and I don't think anybody really even knows, but the baseball's wanting to go to Myrtle Beach to a tournament. So he just sent out some preliminary numbers,
Yeah.
and I think they're planning on fundraising. I think we discussed this, you sent your team there from Sequoia, right?
They did, yes. Yeah.
So there's a printout there just of what he has so far, and
Okay,
I guess
I'll
start with
take
you
off running, I
first,
just need to
and
know
then-
what was
yeah.
done, I don't wanna remake anything.
No, this is
Alright.
brand new, and then whatever you figure out with
Okay.
him, just let us know and we'll discuss it.
Great. Facilities, we have to talk about the new stadium, there are some, issues that we may face in the spring. But when we gotta try to get the site turned over to them, which will impact track, which I'm involved in anyways. The fall, as far as the scheduling, he's right, section 3 controls it, but I am on the committee, so I will have a say with what goes on to that. And we've been fortunate to have 5 straight home games, I guess I could bend a little bit and take a couple away games, but. Finally, the fitness center, we're trying to get that up and running November 1st. I have 2 people signed up to kind of be at the desk for that. It'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday right now, 5:30 to 8, and it'll begin November 1st.
Will you be including walking in at that point also? We were able to walk
I
inside
guess
last
so, but I
year.
don't know how
We
that
don't
impacts me.
have anybody watch us, we just sign a book.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You can watch me walk, I'm,
Are staff or students working in the fitness center?
Currently, right now, it's staff, but I have some options that depending upon how many I need. But there are some options that we can go, if I go with a student, they're certainly gonna need first aid CPR in that fitness center. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 5:30 to
5:30 to 8. Okay. We have another new staff that we're going to introduce, Ms. Nofree.
Yes.
Okay, she's our new elementary principal. She's going to give us her update.
I'm very fortunate to be here. Thank you very much. My transition has been wonderful so far. School is off to a great start. Pre-K has been doing wonderful. The students are transitioning in. Everybody seems really happy. First 2 weeks, I've been kind of meeting with teachers briefly, just learning the curriculum, seeing how things are going, learning about some of the traditions here at West Canada Valley. I've been getting into the classrooms and seeing students are actively engaged. I've been seeing some lessons. Everybody's very happy and learning. We've had, so Herkimer BOCES holds an honors program monthly, and they invite, each district can send up to 3 students. So we do have some 6th graders going from here on Thursday, and they're gonna be attending drone camp with a twist. So it's a full day experience. They go work with other students from various districts. They have I do have a chaperone that's attending with them, so students are excited to do that. I'm working with a PTO to plan a meet and greet at one of their upcoming PTO meetings. And I'm really excited for Trunk or Treat event on October 25th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Peppa?
Yes, so, we too are, the high school involved in the honors program, working with BOCES. We have a couple trips coming up, one on the 20th, which is, debate and, kind of a communication one. And, that's 3 students and 1 teacher, each school gets 3 students. Then we have one, I believe it's on the 26th, which is theater, mask, and meme. Which the kids went to last year and really enjoyed it. So we'll have 3 students going at that. On September 26th, we had all our 9th graders go over to the Nexus Center to see Erin Gruel. She was the Freedom Rider. And that was called Overcoming Obstacles. That was a full day for all our 9th graders. I got a lot of good feedback about that. We had an open house on the 28th. We had a good turnout. I had about 60 parents, which is good for high school, you know, especially our kids and our families are really busy with sports and other stuff. So, you know, great turnout, a lot of good feedback from parents about our teachers and how great our teachers are here. So, you know, I was really glad to hear that. We had a pep rally this past Friday for homecoming, and our homecoming dance was on the 7th. You know, great event. Again, another good turnout. Kids seem to have a really lot of fun. I want to, you know, give a special thanks to Mr. Conover. He DJ'd that, donated his time to do that. So, you know, I just want to make sure, you know, we gave him credit for that. Mrs. Rose put the whole event together, chaperones, and, you know, the kids really had a good time. It looked really nice. So that's primarily what's happened here, other than normal, you know, moving around the building, checking out teachers, you know, trying to assist new teachers with any obstacles they come across as, you know, as they push through the year here.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, how do you choose the 3 students that go to the honors program?
So I work with the grade level teachers and ask them to identify 3 students. So typically 1 student from each class.
From each homeroom?
Yes.
And
So
for
they're
the-
different each time, right?
Yeah, for the high school, we, whoever the chaperone is, you know, reached out, picks 3 students, for the math, meme, and, the theater one. Mrs. Bonnie gave a list of, some
By the
students
theme,
that
like
are
the
in the
department?
musical who, you know, may be interested in it. We try to find students who, you know, show an interest or may benefit from it. It's hard picking.
Well,
three.
that, yeah,
It's
that was
it's
a
really hard
3, I'm
picking
like,
3.
geez,
Um,
hard.
We try to mix it up, make sure if a kid goes on one of the trips, they don't go on another trip throughout the year.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks. Hi, Mr. Ray.
So this past month's been pretty busy, usually the start of school is. Like Mr. Broadbent just touched base on the pep rally on Friday, we also had the go home early drill on Friday. So that played a little havoc, trying to get back some PT kids and stuff like that. The biggest problem we had that day was with some pre-K students, so next year we'll have to look at what we're gonna do different with that. But that's something going forward that would not be an issue. Field trips have started, DOT was here October 14th. No defects reported. Our 3 large buses are still on schedule for January or February delivery. The small bus, I got word today, that's actually in Chittenango, it arrived today. So looking like November we'll be getting that, so that's quite a bit sooner than we initially thought. I'm working on getting the quotes for the 3 new buses for the upcoming year. Just waiting on what their final price will be from the state contract. They're changing some of that stuff, and they haven't issued out the new stuff yet. So as soon as I get that, like we discussed last year, I'll put the letter of intent in as soon as possible, so we can get that going. Hopefully we can get an earlier delivery than January or February. EV vehicles. I'm sure some of you guys heard a lot about that in the past month and a half. I discussed that a little bit last summer. I went to a couple different meetings. There was some grant money last year for it. I was hoping, and I think a lot of you guys were hoping too, that it would probably go away, but it doesn't seem to be. Looks like by 2027, we're gonna actually have to buy, every vehicle that we're buying is gonna be zero emission. Right now, electric is the only thing that's that. So potentially something else come along, maybe propane or something like that. But we're gonna have to start looking into that more into what it's gonna take to require us to go to electric. So over the next 6-8 months, I'll probably be bringing in more info about electric stuff. We're gonna start with an assessment of our fleet and what it's gonna require for us to actually do that. Because by 2035, we gotta be 100% zero emission for our whole fleet, so.
I think I remember you saying there's like triple or quadruple the price of a regular bus.
So, as of last year, an electric vehicle, electric bus was about $450,000. So, it's gonna be a huge cost.
That's what we're financing this year for 4 buses.
Right.
Yeah.
The funding should go up accordingly though, right?
There is some money. Right now, the federal government set aside $500 million to New York State for electric vehicle stuff. Actually, I was talking with DJ about this last week a little bit. Some of the places are looking through BOCES, because BOCES, the funding is different. We're fortunate where we have an 88% state aid ratio, so we will benefit by buying it ourselves and not through a co-op type deal. So.
Did you say it was New York State or the whole United States that was doing this?
So New York State is the one mandating this. Yeah.
So what do we do with our old buses once we go to electric?
Well,
That we're getting new buses.
they will, we trade them in, but, right, they'll be sold, obviously not in New York State. But there might be,
Sell them and get.
right, there might be a loophole where you could buy a bus used. I guess I don't know what the loopholes are gonna be. The state came out September, I think it was September 15th. They issued this guide plan and roadmap, they call it, for EV vehicles. And there's about 10 different sections in there. And right now, they only have 4 sections that actually have information on it, so everything's fairly new. I happen to run across a thing for state ed, and I think that they're gonna start tracking what we're actually doing. We might have to provide them with information of what we've done for electric vehicle research. And if we don't provide them with the correct stuff, I think they're gonna start pulling some funding. So they're almost like strong arming us to have to do something. So, I'm not saying let's jump on it, I'm saying let's get the process and do what, they're telling us to do. To be honest with you, I'd put it off as long as we can.
And then you said something the last time too about like the electric, like being able to,
To support
that.
Yeah, so that has changed a little bit, because they were talking before like 600 volts of power coming in, which I've never heard of such a thing. But they're saying the 3-phase power system should support level 2 chargers. How many chargers will it support at once? I don't know that. That's something we have to look into for the infrastructure. I'm thinking, maybe we'd have to put another entrance in possibly, maybe over in the bus garage, so we weren't running power as far, so we're not subbing to the building and then over to the bus garage. They're also talking about possibly another generator just to back up the buses, which is kind of foolish because that's counterproductive of going 0%. You have a diesel generator too. I mean, I know we all hear it and we laugh about it, but unfortunately, looks like that's what we're gonna have to go towards.
What about keeping the buses warm? I don't wanna put you on the spot, cause I don't know if you looked into it, but in our weather in the winter, won't they need to be kept inside?
Yeah, so that's a huge problem too. So, part of the charging system is supposedly heats and cools the battery. So like during the wintertime, the battery has to stay warm. So yes, disadvantage for us is those batteries are basically gonna have a heater system on there that's charging them. And there's a lot of challenges that come with electric buses, especially when you get into rural upstate.
Do they have a range of how long the batteries are
I
gonna
think your question is good though.
Yeah.
I think we need to know what we're gonna do with the buses we're not using, because they're not just gonna sit in this yard.
Well, so the problem's gonna be is you're probably gonna have to add more buses in order to get the range, because the charge time in between. So right now, the level 2 charger, they call it, takes anywhere from 2.5 to 4 hours to charge. So if the bus comes back in at 9, we gotta get out for the afternoon, if there's any kind of run in between. So there's a whole lot of juggling we're gonna have to figure out and do. Hopefully the range on the batteries will get better. Right now, they say there's a 250-mile range, but everybody who has one and has been using it, they can't get over 80 miles.
Oh.
On flat ground or on hills?
No matter where. No matter
Yeah,
where.
and
The
also
best
in the
anybody
winter,
has
I would
seen.
assume the battery is gonna die quicker.
Yes, right, because now in order to make heat, basically it's like a toaster in there, you're gonna, dead short, that's gonna draw the battery more, so, yeah, there's a lot.
What do you do if you use one of them on a trip, sport trip, and they have this,
They're gone all day.
it's 20 below zero?
So there's been some talk about that too, and they're hoping to have the infrastructure built up where, let's say we're going to South Louis, we could get a bus to make it that far. Then when we're there, we'd be plugging in to one of their charge ports. So that school would be on the line for our electricity.
Do they charge us for that?
No idea.
That's a good question.
We're using
Make
that.
sure you ask
I
that.
have no idea. But like I said, this
They're
is,
gonna charge here.
yeah.
It's like getting gas. You run out of gas and they're gonna charge you for gas.
So that's why I'm hoping that propane is very close to being 0% emission. That would be, to me, a better option. 2027 seems to be pretty aggressive to be in compliance and buying electric buses. However, I mean, they can make us do whatever they want us to do.
Oh, okay,
Any other questions?
interesting. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Caleb.
you.
Didn't receive any questions, but were there any questions on any of the consent agenda items? Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Ed first, Janine second, all in favor? A motion to enter executive session for the appointment of personnel matters, including review and appointment of employees and contract negotiations. Janine first, Shauna second, all in favor? Okay, welcome back. Starting off with action items and the personnel report. A motion to appoint Kyle Swecky, physical education, health teacher, 4-year probationary appointment in the 10-year area of physical education and health. Step 6 of the WCBTA bargaining agreement, retroactive to September 1st, 2023. Janine first, Sarah second, all in favor? Motion to appoint Jacqueline Strikert, bus driver, 6-month probationary appointment for the negotiated hourly rate of the CSEA bargaining agreement effective October 11th, 2023. Ed first, Sarah second, all in favor? Motion to appoint Haley Astor, teacher mentor for the WCBTA bargaining agreement effective 2023-24 school year. Janine first, Elisa second, all in favor. Motion to appoint Joseph Carney, substitute teacher for the district approved rate sheet effective October 11th, 2023. Peter first, Shauna second, all in favor. Motion to appoint Emily Wheeler, substitute teacher per the district approved rate sheet effective October 11th, 2023. Peter first, Janine second, all in favor. Last month we were presented with the audit, and we had a corrective action plan, which is also in the handout tonight. A motion to accept the audit and a corrective action plan as presented. Janine first, Sarah second, all in favor?
Question?
Yes.
Kelly, what did they do with it? Oh. What was the deficit for the school lunch program?
It increased by 30,000. I don't have the report in front of me, but actually.
Did it say, I was reading the audit, but Google.
It's on like page 26 or something. Let's see, where was it? Page 26? No, next one is before that.
Kelly knows the audit by heart.
17 and 18. Yes, it increased to 118,000 from 50.
And that, on the same page, fund balance, end of the year, that is correct?
Yes.
No?
For general fund, yes, that's correct, 4 million for.
Thank you.
Okay,
Now we can vote.
Okay, I had Janine first, Sarah second, and all in favor. Okay. Next up, we had a municipal cooperative agreement. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the West Canada Valley Central School District hereby approves the amended and restated municipal cooperative agreement to provide health benefits effective July 1st, 2023 among the member districts of the Personal County Schools Health Insurance Consortium and authorizes the board president to execute the agreement on behalf of the West Canada Valley Central School District. Janine first, Sarah second, all in favor? A motion to approve Glenn Broadbent and Christine Nofree as the lead evaluators. Ed first, Shauna second, all in favor?
Come back. You have to say the year though.
Oh,
You have to say the year.
for the 2023-24 school year, sorry.
Oh,
The evaluators.
oh, got it.
Come back.
The athletic combination,
I don't
No.
know.
oh, okay,
I told him I'd take the heat.
that's fine. Poland students are coming.
Yes,
for
coming here
bowling.
to bowl, yep,
For bowling.
yep.
How many?
2 boys,
Two boys
1
and
girl.
Oh, good.
Did they have anyone interested in Poland to play football
Yes, they do.
Did they? I mean, did they?
I don't know about this year, but they have in the past, and I had a parent ask me whose son wants to play next year.
And they will not sign off.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Poland will
It's a
sign on?
shame, but we
Poland
accept them,
Really?
yes.
Yeah,
And
both
it's been
schools-
going,
both
it's been
schools
going
have
on
to
for 2 or
do
3
that,
years.
yeah.
They
There was,
won't
about
allow,
3 years ago, they had 6 boys that wanted to play
They won't let
football.
their-
Do not play soccer.
Right.
They wanted to play football and to,
We
They wouldn't sign
approved,
off.
we approved it. but
they
Poland-
won't
Yeah.
approve it?
Poland
They didn't
doesn't.
approve it.
No.
Terrible.
And they won't let our kids go there to play soccer either,
Well,
but they don't need.
I get that, because we have our own soccer team,
Well,
but.
Well, no, for boys.
Oh,
You know.
Well,
But they don't
It's
need
just,
to,
you
when the
know,
time comes, but yeah.
time they reciprocated a
I
little bit.
didn't mean to be
think.
that loud.
I'm so sorry.
Or
A
let it
motion
happen
to
for other
approve the
sports.
athletic combination, Janine first, Elisa second, all in favor? And we have an overnight trip to Allstate.
Yes,
Oh.
yep, to Walton, New York for the, area All-State. I guess it's held every year down there, so
Okay.
they have to spend the night.
Motion
For music?
to approve the
Yeah.
overnight trip
Yeah.
area
We go
Allstate.
figure.
Peter first, Janine second, all in favor?
Guess I don't remember that.
Okay, up for discussion items would be first off the capital project.
Okay, very short report. They are continuing to, they're pretty much wrapping up, I think, the majority of the project. I know some of the roofing stuff. I know 2 weeks ago when I first arrived here, they were finishing some of the flashing along the top and around the rooftop unit that they put over the pool. The pool work is continuing with the grouting, the cleaning or replacing of some of the baffles, sound barriers up above the pool.
So taking them down to paint.
Yes, those that are still in good enough condition, they're taking them down to paint. Those that are on the verge of crumbling, just by virtually taking them down, they're replacing. So they've got, I know they had to replace a majority of like most of the jets, I think, in the pool. Those had to be fabricated, because it was an outdated item, so they fabricated those. I believe those are installed, and they're ready to go. So that work is continuing. It will continue probably, he says here that the grout work will continue to push into November. And then auditorium work will start during Christmas break. That's performance lights. We're getting new lights there. We're getting new carpeting, I think, in the aisles and in the orchestra area in front of the stage. And then painting of the walls and the ceiling, everything from the curtain out to the exits. So that's that. I have no specific report on the domestic water, other than they are continuing to work on that. The engineers believe they have a solution. They're working that solution through with the Department of Health to get their approval on that path moving forward. And we hope to certainly get that done as soon as possible, so we can stop buying water. And then the pool, they're keeping the pool water separate from the domestic water, so they can focus on getting that up and running. And then, they will work with DOH on what applications they need to do to address the pool water system. So, in the turf project, you heard about that earlier tonight. Any questions that you have?
What is the issue with the water exactly?
So, is how to get chlorination
Okay.
into the lines.
So
Consistent,
because
yes.
all of that was redone?
Redone, new pumps put in, and so there's an issue, I think, with the new pumps that have gone in, as to how to appropriately get the right amount of chlorination in it, and to maintain it throughout the system. So the engineers are working that through. Fortunately, they are communicating, which is very good with DOH, because you don't want to put all these plans together and then DOH comes in and says, no, you can't do this. So they are working together on that, and hopefully can get that solved. But that's a great question, and that's been the major hangup, is how to appropriately chlorinate the water and maintain it through this new system.
I would like to add that, I don't know if we can send a letter or just acknowledging, how the college, Churchill College is letting us use their pool, for the swim team.
I will get a letter out.
And they're also letting, Dallasville use their soccer field for soccer. I just think that should be highlighted.
The lights have been installed in the gyms.
Oh, yes.
Oh, the controls are not installed yet, but the lights are, the new lights are in there. But you gotta have sunglasses on. It is bright.
Kids think someone is clean.
It's always been that clean.
Now you can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions on the capital project? Okay. Mr. Broadbent, are you gonna update us on the mascot? or-
Sure, yep, if you wanna share what you've got from the survey, then we can just all openly discuss how to move forward.
Sounds good. Yep, so, took the survey, which was, the first one was over 100 suggestions, coming from community members, elementary kids, high school kids, staff, pretty much anybody who, wanted input. And we had a wide range of, mascot ideas. We were able to, in this second phase, narrow it down to 25. We had 829 forms filled out for the survey, so a lot of input from everybody. And it was a wide range of, various stakeholders. Top of the list, if you look at how they came in, Eagles, Wildcats, Cougars, Wolves, Hawks, Bears, Coyotes, Rapids, Miners, Diamond Miners, the Wolverines, Wolfpack, Bobcat, Diamonds, as we work down, and it'll get smaller and smaller, but those were some of our top ones there. So we're just, we got a discussion about how we want to move forward and narrow things down.
We do like the top 5 or top 7. Can you keep this?
Well, I agree, I think we should get on a timeline. We have some time, but we don't wanna let time go by, and then all of a sudden we're rushing, and then the field turf is ready to go in, and we don't, if you want a mascot on there or some new image on there other than, WCV, you can, we have that time to do that. And I think we have to let the turf company know 6 weeks prior, up to 6 weeks. So again, I hesitate to share that because, okay, well, that's going in the summer, 6 weeks, or back it up,
You said
it's May.
20.
But let's move, I guess decide on the process of how we want to go forward and then kind of stay on a timeline that's moving forward. I don't know, I think to your point, Janine, if there's a need to say, all right, let's cut this down to 15, then to 10. I think the fact that you gave 5 choices, like where you place some of these, you have a lot of detail right here. You could probably, I'll just throw it out there, you could certainly probably get down to your top 5 right now, if you wanted to, but
I think 4, there's a big jump between 26 and 45, the top 4.
Because you were saying also that another folder would be the graphic design of it.
Well, here's a couple things. If, first people think about, hey, we'd love for this to be the next mascot. I think when you're gonna finalize it, some of the questions you're gonna get from people is, well, what is the logo gonna look like? Because that might sway how they vote. They might really like Eagles, but wait a minute, Wildcats looks like the better symbol, that's the one, it might change somebody's vote. I'm not sure, I can't, but I know, being involved in this process, that was one of the discussion points as well. If I knew what the image was, that might determine what the vote's gonna be.
Where do we get the
But,
imagery from?
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Capron, he's a teacher in
Yep.
elementary, he has, drawn up some designs already that he wanted to show to the public.
Oh, can he come and present them to us at the
Well,
next meeting?
we were talking about possibly, if we decided maybe what ones we wanted to move forward, which is pretty clear here, then we would start like a special committee would take the whole process over. Get artwork and get,
Because I think that if you have the mascot and have the logo together, I think that'd be a better bet than to.
Just put on the name, yeah.
Because the committee might be able to help come down to that, because, right, you might have 4 pieces of art for each of these, or maybe 3 for one, 4 for another, and that committee could maybe then
narrow
say,
it
hey,
down.
this is what it's gonna be,
Match it up.
and then put it out there.
I'd rather
and
have
do
that
some
than-
type of final
Yeah.
thing, so.
I like that.
Do you like the idea of saying with the information you have now, to take top 5 to a committee?
Can I ask, what was the breakdown of eagles? How many for bald eagle, how many for screaming eagles, how many for soaring eagles, and just plain eagles?
So
Do you have that?
They were all clumped together, because most of the people who made the suggestion of the eagles, in their suggestion, put bald eagle, soaring eagle. So they kind of clumped together, because their suggestion was clumped
Put 'em all in
together.
there.
Like the bears and the black bears, a lot of the people who put bears or black bears. So they kind of clumped them together in their suggestion.
Yeah.
So,
Any
they're-
kind of an eagle.
Is that the same with hawks?
yeah, hawks, red-tailed hawks, they would put, like, their suggestion was hawks, and they'd like
But
red-tailed
you don't have the
hawk.
breakdown, so, did bald eagle have 2, and screaming eagles had 1, and soaring eagles had 30?
They were all clumped together. So they weren't separated, so every step of the process, they were together, which is,
So maybe the committee would have to separate out what one.
Yeah.
yeah, there was a few that kind of
We'll make the
people
determination.
clumped, like the bucks or the bucks, the
Spelling of it.
they did, spelling of
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
they would put it together, so it wasn't like it was,
And what do we know for all the other area schools that had to change?
What did Sequoia go to?
So Sequoia went to Red Hawks, and that was a pretty dominant, I would say, of the responses they had, probably 40% of the original survey was Hawks or Red Hawks. And then, no different than that, you got a plethora of, something that,
What was the largest
were
group,
wild shots, but,
largest group of people that sent their stuff in? Was it students? How many,
Students,
what percentage do we have from
parents,
students?
oh, from the original?
Yeah,
I could get those numbers from you, they're in my office.
I got the paper home. It was very small, I think, wasn't it?
For what?
They were the smallest students,
students.
which
Students
shocked
were
me.
the smallest.
It shocked me.
Maybe you can have them do it at school on a Chromebook. maybe.
No, we,
Yeah.
for elementary, that's,
How they
I
did
sent emails out to the elementary school, the principal,
Yeah.
teachers.
Well, maybe now that you've got it more finalized, you can get more of a feedback.
We had a lot of suggestions from, but not the level
I'd
of,
like a percentage of what the students.
So are we
Broke
good
down
with narrowing
elementary
it
and
down
high
to
school.
this
I
I can
top
get you that
five,
when we
or
walk
wanna-
out.
Okay.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Other people or
Goes
be
to
something
the
different
committee
than
as
that?
top five?
Right, cause like,
If they don't have 10,
like
get
how
rid of
far
it.
away from our area do
Is
you
it
wanna
Peterson
have like a
Red Hawks?
duplicate name?
No, they're the
You know,
Hawkeyes.
like
Hawkeyes.
Adirondack has
Thank
the
you.
wild
Yeah,
grass, like, are
Who's
we
that?
kind of too close to
Cooperstown.
another wild?
We don't wanna
grass?
be eagle.
Waterville
So-
is Eagles.
so Waterville-
Central Springs is
No, I
Eagles.
know.
Waterville and Richfield Springs went from Indians to Eagles.
Yeah, see, that's a lot.
Sequoia Red Hawks. Clinton was the Warriors
Now
or
they're
the
the
Comets.
Comets.
Whitesboro, they're working on theirs.
Hockey, you have your
Um,
hockey.
So, think others in the area.
I mean, I
Can't
would
think
just
of
hate
any
to have
others.
like free eagle, like they're all playing like Eagles versus Eagles.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, we're all the Indians.
I know.
Well, when you say it that way.
You're right.
You're absolutely right.
Any word on Salamanca, what they came up with?
No idea.
Do you?
Check that out, would you please? If you get a free moment, could you check that out?
Okay.
Because they were the Indians.
Where is that?
I was just gonna
It's a reservation school. Be interesting to see if they're allowed to keep it.
So my question is, how do we go about forming a special committee?
Newsletter.
So,
Facebook.
yeah, you would want certainly students on here, get a couple community members, if there's a couple board members that wanted to serve on the committee, certainly staff. I think you try to get a somewhat of a broad range, and then, it's, then, if Mr. Catherine has ideas, I'm thinking that could be advantageous, because they would then more or less be originals, as opposed, because the one thing you have to be conscious of is if you take other stuff that may be trademark, copyrighted, whatever, then we'd have to kind of vet to make sure we could go in that direction, or if it's something we like, how would we modify it to make it something that could be our own and not have to change because something gets brought to your attention a year from now and you have to change it again. While you can cut things out of the turf, it is expensive to put new things
We're
in.
not touching
so
turf.
Yeah, it would
You
not
don't
be
want to,
good.
trust me.
We're lucky if we can play on it, we're just gonna look
Yep.
at it. So who's deciding who's on it?
That's, I'm open to suggestions.
How did
and
you
I'll
guys
let
do
know.
that with your?
So I tapped, building principals with, maybe finding some students, maybe they, they got some from student council. Elementary principal found a couple elementary kids, and actually I had their parents come with them, so that also gave you some parents on the committee. And maybe that's a way to get some parents on that. Same, athletic director, booster club representation, couple coaches, so I would tap that. Again, for, elementary does have a PTO. See if there's somebody interested from there as a community member. What's that? Sports Booster Club, I would certainly, tap those kind of people, so to try to get, and then again, I know we did have 2 board members on our committee, which, they enjoyed listening to the students. Their discussions in the process was pretty powerful.
We have an active alumni association too. We can give you-
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
Okay.
one.
So those would be, yep.
So how big of a committee would you be looking for?
50 people.
No.
Like,
I would,
That's 8 different groups, right?
I'd
Yeah.
say 10. Under
yeah,
10.
I'd say maybe between 10 and 20, we get,
So they
when
get
we
2
did
people.
have a little bit more.
Did they
of that,
take
I'll
a
tell you.
survey in the elementary building?
You didn't always get them all at the same
It
meeting.
must have been prior.
Sorry,
so
so
I
you,
don't
yeah,
remember.
So yeah, it was
Yes,
an order
they
to all
did.
the teachers responded to me, with questions, and, they were asked to assist their students with the surveys.
Yeah, they did. Tyler said he got to vote on it, so.
Yes, because the one that made Facebook was the dinosaur. The one kid got a dinosaur made.
Oh,
Stick figures and figures, Pac-Man frog,
yeah.
So you got some kid ones because we,
So 2 per thing, pretty much.
Okay, so Mr. Broadbent's gonna,
So thoughts on, I guess, if we put the committee together, do we want them to review this whole list to come up with the top 5, or just have them start
Top
working with
5.
the top 5?
Top
Okay.
5. But you gotta go down the list, cause the number,
right.
the 5th one is the Rapids, so
But
goes
if
the
you
top 4 and then it goes the Rapids, it's down again.
also like.
no, the last column it's in order.
oh, now I see.
It's
Okay.
in order.
I was
Last
going by
guy.
the
First
first.
row.
So each person got picked their 5 top choices. So when you calculated their first choice with their second choice and third choice, fourth
Gotcha.
choice, fifth
Well, it
choice.
can be red tail hawks when we're.
So your top 5 are the Eagles, Wildcats, Cougars, Wolves, and Hawks.
Okay.
Can we take off Cougars? Only because they're Top Warner or the Cougars. Is that illegal?
I think that's why it was popular.
Yeah.
I think there's movement
I think,
among some people who wanted to.
So we have to keep it?
I don't make those
We
decisions.
don't,
That would be-
well, that's, I mean,
I
that's,
think we
You
have
gotta
to
be
let
careful,
that go.
because you
to
reached
the-
out, right, you
Yeah.
reached out to the community, this is what they said.
Yeah.
That may come up in discussion in the committee, and it
Sorry.
might, whatever, but,
We'll take it
Group
there.
of Cougars, why would you?
Well, those are the baby cougars.
Some
There's a little,
citizens don't.
yeah.
Oh, there you go.
so,
Okay, so,
okay, we'll work on that.
okay, we're gonna
Oh, that's
form
a
a
good
committee, we have 5
Yeah.
moving on.
I'm sorry, can we do the top 7 then?
Why?
I don't know.
She must like Coyote.
Well, your top 7, if you don't want, if you got local schools that are Eagles, you got 2 that are Eagles,
Right,
Well, yeah.
and
then-
Red Hawks.
and
And
we
like
got
the-
Cougars, so then you might like Rapids instead, or the Miners.
Would you like to have the committee
I like woodchucks.
look at the top 10 and come up with a 5,
Peter.
Sure.
something like that?
But those.
That gives it more options, yes.
The
I go
Wolves.
top 10 and then the committee can go from there.
The
Committee can
Wolves,
narrow it.
you can put the Wolverines and Wolfpack all into one
I would,
category.
I was thinking of
When you
that
see
too,
my new
like
shirt,
the
I'll probably
Wolves,
get thrown
Wolverines,
out.
and Wolfpack together.
Because don't you think people, if they really like the Wolves or the Wolverines, and the Wolves are in the top 5, they would probably go for that choice.
And maybe the committee would then narrow that
Right.
representation
Yeah.
down to one.
Right.
I think
And
that
then
should
see
be
if that goes
together.
forward.
Wolves,
Right.
Wolverines, and Wolfpacks should be together like Eagles.
Yes.
So I'll have committee begin work on top 10 and narrow it down to 5.
Yes.
That sounds
And
good.
the top 10 is after combining, yes?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
we'll try
combine
to, we'll
those.
use, yep, some discretion on combining them.
That's
That's
what
good.
That's it.
And while we're here, are there board members interested in being on the committee?
I will, I can fit.
I'll do
I
it.
can fit on the PTO also, so I'm on that too.
Lisa and I will do it.
Just so Mr. Broadbeck knows.
And you can be the PTO person, yeah.
So, you're gonna be
PTO.
PTO, okay. And board,
Elisa and Sean, we're gonna fight the magician.
okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you for your
Thank you.
input on that. That's, you don't want, you want this to be, you wanna try to have some commitment from a group as opposed to,
Will you be
being directed.
facilitating?
I can, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. We have the following
No.
announcements. November
My
3rd through
first,
the.
first task.
Yes.
Make your first-
You want me to get done, don't you?
we want to do this one.
November 3rd and 4th is All County 1 at Herkimer High School. November 9th through the 11th will be SpongeBob the Musical at 7 p.m. November 10th is Veterans Day observance. November 17th through the 18th, Area All-State at Walton High School. November 22nd through the 24th will be Thanksgiving recess, and our next meeting will be Monday, November 13th, 2023. Public comments?
Mr. Early?
Yes.
Hello, could you please?
God, I had forgotten how fun these are.
Yes.
Do you mind if I stand?
Go ahead.
No. Thank you. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Greg Lang. I'm a 30-some year resident of the district. 4 kids went through school here. My wife recently retired after 30 years, her last 26 here. So I came to talk about the mascot thing tonight, and I don't want to relitigate what the state is doing. And usually public comment, I sat on that side for 9 years, so I understand public comment. Usually it's a didactic and not a Q&A. But I had a couple questions, and I think I already answered the first one when I heard the discussion going on, and your interim superintendent was leading that discussion in a good way. My question was going to be, did the district develop and did the board sign off on a comprehensive plan to move forward with the mascot change? It sounds like the answer is no, because we're shuffling the deck and moving chairs around here, trying to figure out what the next steps are. So did I misinterpret that? Is there really a plan?
We had to have a
Well, the plan
plan.
was,
We had a plan in place.
We
the
didn't
plan,
have
there
a
was a
plan.
plan.
There was a plan.
There was a plan. The plan was to get it out to the community first, get their comments, see what they wanted, and then come to this
This is
here.
the plan.
We originally had a longer list.
Yeah, approximately 108, I think.
But we also had to have things done by the end of last school year. We had to have the removal and all that. That was
Right,
right.
phase 1.
Yep, that's phase 1. So I really, I guess I'm focusing on phase 2 and
Right.
what's
Okay.
happening with that.
Okay.
And I see you guys, and I appreciate that you're struggling through how to move forward, and there's a lot of moving parts, and many stakeholders involved. But we aren't the first district to do this, and some have already done it and completed it, and have we reached out to them? Have we spoken with what their process is, found out what their process has been? Have we gleaned anything from that? Could we glean anything from that? I think what I heard was good progress tonight, taking it from, let's not rehash the next 25, let's get it down to a more bite-sized number and go from there and get stakeholders involved. So I think that's good.
we have Mr. Wheelock here who's coming from Sequoia, who just went through this, so.
So
he
you have
has
the
been
experience
able
of
to
doing
give
that.
us, yeah, a
Sure.
lot of
Similar,
guidance.
didn't see it all the way through. We got the change of the name, and they did settle on a logo in September.
Mhm.
They put it out to actually just the students. So that's where some of these processes, I know Waterville did a similar process in Sequoia. They used BOCES PR department to help with the process, to
Mhm.
make sure that we, to help guide it. They had some suggestions, some were beneficial, some we may not necessarily agreed with. They discouraged like student artwork for it. And the reason was because, which, they discouraged it in a sense that I think somebody can get too intricate, and you have to think about how will this look on a shirt? How will this look as a logo on a letterhead? How will it look on a field? Which, okay, I understood that, but I'm like, okay, so if you talk to the artist and say, can you tone this down a little bit? Can you tweak some of these elements?
Sure.
Could you still work with it? So some of us thought, well, it would be neat to do that, but there was advice. So I think there's gonna be pros and cons on both sides. I know Waterville used a PR firm out of the Albany area. The superintendent was from the Albany, or did a previous superintendency in the Albany area, and had good relationships with them, and they helped them in that process. I wanna say, and I can follow up on this, that they, some were like, we want equal representation from community and the students. Some were more, we wanted to be student-driven. You had the community input to kind of get to this, and then kind of have the students now embrace this as, this is a new chapter in their lives. Let's recognize, respect, and honor the history that we've had, but give the new kids, the kids that will be here for the new mascot, a larger say in that. But some communities might be fine with that, others might be, no,
Sure.
we want.
If I could interject, so
Yes.
I think actually Mr. Kemmler asked a question about what was the breakdown. So people who responded self-identified as something.
Yep.
And if we take that at gospel, what was the breakdown, like how many current students are involved in those 800 and some responses? Do you have an idea? I mean,
I can get you those.
could we
It was
say
a very
ballpark?
small
I mean,
percentage.
is it 5%? Is it 50%?
I think it was 8.
Pull it up right here.
Which
Like to see a
bothered
little
me.
more balance there,
That
right?
bothered me. 8% of the student body? I mean,
But you also can't determine how many times
you
somebody,
got that, Glenn?
Voted.
Do you have
Right.
that?
so you could have somebody that voted, and it's funny, you can
Well, I
look at
can
it.
look at
You can
email
look at
addresses.
timeframes. I
Yeah,
know I've looked
you
at
gave
some
us- you
back
gave
at
us
Detroit.
Yeah.
Graph.
Within 10 minutes, 20 responses come in, all saying the same thing. Whether it's a
Stuff in
couple
the ballot
people working
box.
over, so you're right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that kind of
That's why I'm
unknown.
hoping the
but,
second round with the tailored list, you'll get more student involvement is what I'm hoping.
Well, again, I just want to go back, the process part, I think you guys need to get a firm handle on, and I think you're right, and everything that you discussed tonight seemed to be leaning toward getting more buy-in, more representation from the various stakeholders, and that's really important, in my opinion. I think it's really important to do that. One last comment. So I heard from at least 3 people outside of our district, actually out in New York State, but way outside of our district. And they all had access to and looked at the survey. And they were like, why did some of the names appear on there that did? In other words, why did we just regurgitate whatever came in and send it back out? And I mean, it's embarrassing, it's not professional to have stick figures show up on a survey. And we should have used some.
We decided to do that because we wanted everyone to be heard. So if it was your child in kindergarten and they picked stick figure to put out, they got put on the list.
Okay.
And guess what?
And
They felt important about that, and they felt that they are
Included.
a part of it and included. So we knew stick figures was not gonna be the mascot, but that kid saw their name on that list and they thought that was the greatest thing ever.
We'll agree to disagree.
Okay.
At least you had a rationale behind why you did it.
Or
I get that.
another, my perspective on that was the public, the stakeholders saw what we were given, saw what was suggested.
And these were elementary kids that suggested this.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
You know what I'm saying? So you know what we were working with.
Of course,
So
but
then you know.
all the public sees all of what you were given, including some of the less savory ones, and maybe stick figures wasn't a good example, but again, I
Bananas.
think just,
Yeah, no,
it didn't
get
show the district to be very
Mhm.
smart about how we did it, I don't think. Oh, I'm done. These used to go on to 10 o'clock.
No, we're
So
almost done.
I apologize for holding you up.
That's your opinion.
But thank you for your time. I certainly would be interested, if you're looking for community input, I would be interested in helping out in some way.
Thank you.
I'll leave that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, folks.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Good night. Motion to adjourn. Jenny first, Sarah second, all in favor.
So Mr. Sarris has some drawings in his classroom.
Who?
Mr. Sarris,
Oh,
if anyone wants to come down, I can show you some of the stuff they've been putting together.
the kids?
Can we take his and Mr. Capron's? Can we?
Mr. Capron and him have been working very
Yeah.
closely
Yeah.
together and having conversations.
They
So-
should be on the
So they should be on the commission.
They would like to be, I did not give them an answer because I wasn't sure how we were gonna choose a committee, if we were going
That's
to.
what I'm not.
But I can show you those. If anybody's interested. What's that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you've been through the first one.